Hey YouTube, I got another video coaching review and another one from Andrew. This is his 5th video coaching review that he sent to me. And if you're interested in checking out any of his other ones, because he's made some massive progress over the last several months, I'll have links in the description below and a card at the top up there for the video coaching review submission playlist. And thank you to Andrew for letting me use this as content on my channel. It genuinely helps others out, I believe, because many other people struggle with the same issues that a lot of other archers are, so thanks to him for that. And if you're unfamiliar with what video coaching reviews are, I essentially sit down here at a computer and work through people's form and technique and help them with some things that I could see that they may want to change, or possibly they even ask me questions in regards to tuning, setup, training advice, or whatever related to archery. And if you're interested in getting your own video coaching review, I will have links in the description below, again, to my website, jkaminski.com. And you can find out more information there. So thanks again to Andrew. Let's get right to it. Hey there, Andrew. Thanks for submitting another video coaching review, and thanks for letting me use this as content on my channel. Genuinely, this helps others out because they tend to deal with the same issues that you're dealing with as well. So thanks for that. We'll go over your email first, and then I will check out your shooting. So it feels like, overview of where you feel you are, you're starting to feel like you've now got a consistent shot sequence, and it's coming across in higher scores, now averaging in the low 500s. You don't always hit all the points in the checklist, but you're trying to go through and usually know what you did wrong after making a bad shot. This is usually when you fail to get into proper alignment and you struggle to get through the clicker, causing your string alignment to stretch to the right of the riser and making the arrow go to the left. Makes sense. Or when you're so focused on getting into proper alignment that you forget to do load or with land 2, or don't pay attention to your release. Again, totally normal. It's just one of those things. The human brain cannot possibly think of two things at the same time. So one thing's got to give, and until you have a habit formed and you've built up the subconscious brain and done enough training to build up that, then there is going to be some problems here or there. You're going to have things and times when you've got to focus on one thing and then the other, and then it's this balancing act that goes back and forth. So that's super normal, and with time, it'll get better. A way to speed that process up is to integrate visualization into the shooting, not just necessarily while not shooting, but in between shots, such as like doing the Lanny and Troy Bassum's mental management systems. I guess it's just Lanny now. Troy's broken off from that or something. I don't know what happened. But anyway, essentially, a pre-shot routine, you actually shoot the shot, and then a post-shot routine. And you can basically integrate changes much faster if you add the mental of the actual shot into the process before and after. So their general rule of thumb is, think about what you're going to do, like the critical moment at full draw as you're pulling through the clicker, how the shot feels. That's what you're supposed to think about before you shoot. You actually shoot it, do your job, and then revisit it depending on how the shot went. Either make it better or just do the same thing again. So if you add, say, for example, you're still focused on proper alignment, but what you want to do is make sure you still load with land 2. So you might want to visualize that before you shoot the shot. You're more likely to do it when you actually go to shoot the shot, but also it's training your subconscious to take over, to make it a true habit much faster that way when you do that type of visualization. And I find that form changes happen much, much faster and makes things much easier. What you're trying to achieve in your sequence. At set, you're trying to line up your stabilizer, arrow, draw, elbow along the target line. You say it should start left, but this is more consistent for you. A good starting place is a good starting place. You can always modify as you build habits. And you're aligning your right dominant eye up to the target so you can set it in place. Good. Set up, you're focused on bringing the bow and draw elbow straight up the target line while rotating your torso to get into alignment. Cool, I did see that in your video. I already watched some of it. You're focused on using your scapula to draw straight back, and if in proper alignment, it meets your nose, mouth, and chin perfectly. Cool. Try to focus more on the land 2 and less on the scapula. You'll find it will make things much easier. You're also less likely to forget about the land 2. but you'll have a lot less jamming of the system the more you can focus on back here and less on the scapula, because that's a little bit too related to muscles, and I've explained that many times about jamming up the system when thinking about muscles instead of movements. Anchor. You find your load position fairly close to your anchor, so you just try and get your shelf into the jawbone and feel the heel of your hand on your neck, and you look for your string alignment to be behind the riser. Excellent. Expansion, release, and follow through. You try to aim before starting expansion to avoid clicking before you're ready to shoot. Turn that try into absolutely. You absolutely acquire aim before you start expanding. You must finish your aiming before you expand. Aiming is right at the tail end of transfer when you are settling into being at full draw. Before you start expanding, right at that time, you need to be aiming and get it done very quickly. All that aiming, all that's required in aiming, excuse me, is to just look at your spot and just let that sight pin float. I've got a few videos that I've made recently for that as well. So if you need a little bit more clarification, you can check those out. But I think you know what I'm talking about. And then you use your back to expand, squeezing your bicep to avoid having your hand fly away at release, and you check to make sure your string alignment is not moving. So squeezing the bicep not necessarily it is required to have some bicep tension, but the way you get the bicep tension is from just having a tighter anchor buried in, like, deeper into your neck. So as you come into anchor, the amount of bicep tension that you need is just the amount that it is to increase the pressure in, up, and kind of back, all at the same time as you are expanding. That anchor should almost increase in pressure in all directions and make everything much tighter, especially going in. That's where the bicep tension will come into play. And you just maintain that through release and follow through. There's a few things that I've noticed on your follow through, and we'll get to that in a second here. It'll also help with your string alignment not moving that way as well. And then you try to release as tightly as possible on the draw side, trying to maintain a forward push on the bow side. Good things there, and we'll cover those a little bit more in depth here. So when you move to setup, it looks like instead of taking the bow straight up from the target line, you actually move it to the inside. I'm not sure which direction that is. I'd have to check. You suspect this may cause some of your alignment issues. That's possible. Further, when you release and follow through, you move the bow to the right to avoid it hitting you when it rolls. Is this correct, or should you try and maintain the target line position so the bow just naturally rolls along that plane? Generally speaking, this is a common thing as far as the bow moving to the right so it doesn't hit you, meaning you do that on purpose. If you maintain good, strong tension and direction in the bow side, and you truly keep that tension going, and you have good pressure into the pressure point with that thumb really driving forward towards the target and pulling that pinky back, as I've talked about in several of the several of the grip videos that I've done as far as how to set your hand properly in the bow. The bow will actually, let me see if I got something here. Maybe my phone. If this is your bow and I'm pushing towards you, the target, if it jumps and it swings and it wants to hit me, so I move the bow like this to the right so it swings out of the way, that's one way to do it. But if you maintain proper pressure, proper direction with the thumb and the pinky coming back, proper drive forward, the bow will actually jump out and it will slightly turn this way and swing this way, where the limb will actually come in front of you more and the stabilizer will point to the left. The reason that you do that is if you have that pressure into the grip with the thumb, it actually turns the bow slightly away from you. That string will move away from the arm upon release, and then the bow will swing that way. So try it a few times, really keep that tension and direction going forward and strong, and make sure you're driving forward with that thumb to the target, and it will make the bow rotate and swing away from you so it doesn't hit you. Let's see. Your hand and finger seem to collapse at release. There's something there we're going to work on. And you think you're trying to keep things tight, but it doesn't look so, not compared to Olympic archers. Maybe you're doing something wrong. You tried my release trick of pivoting around the anchor, but that visual had you plucking your fingers, so you moved to try to squeeze your bicep to keep things tight. We'll see, and I'm going to give you the best advice I possibly can. You also asked down below, but I'm hiding your email so you don't get random emails from people, is asking about anterior deltoid pain, not necessarily like a strain or an injury, just fatigue from use, maybe after heavier days of shooting. No real way to eliminate that, because the thing is, as you exercise, you will fatigue, and as you do that, you'll get muscle soreness. So really trying to focus on proper recovery is important. Extra lean protein, meaning more lean protein, is a very, very big benefit and will help with muscle soreness. You may consider also potentially adding some icing into the equation post exercise, post exertion. Icing immediately after does help inflammation levels, which can reduce that kind of discomfort and soreness. But it is kind of normal after heavier days of shooting to be sore. That's kind of the point of exercise, is to build up, right? And you're breaking down the muscle to rebuild it, and that's where the soreness comes from. So, yeah, icing, some general anti-inflammatory type stuff as far as natural type things. There's a lot of dietary stuff that you can do in order to help reduce inflammation, and supplementation as well. Personally, things that I take are turmeric curcumin extract, basically from turmeric, omega-3 fish oils, specifically not from flaxseed oil. The body cannot absorb flaxseed oil. The omega content is too long of a chain, and it is impossible for the body to absorb. So you have to, well, it's not very readily available. It does absorb some, but not very much, not compared to fish oils. And lots and lots of water. Definitely very helpful. So those things are where I would start. And with that being said, we'll get right into your shooting video. Okay, here we are. So like I said, I've already watched some of this shooting. It's much better, by the way. The change is much better. There's a few things that I think we can work on. A lot of it is going to be in regards to more stability stuff, I believe, because I think you could use a little bit of hip stability. The thing that I'm seeing right off the bat was a lot of weight on your front foot in the set position. So you'll see here, your weight's fairly evenly distributed. You do have more weight on the front foot because you are leaning forward. But after you get all set up and ready to go, when you go to shoot this next shot, see how you've already kicked that hip forward, and now you've got a lot of weight on this front foot. Mav, leave the microphone alone. This is Mav. He's harassing us today. The front leg is straight. Back leg is at an angle. That's showing me you have all the weight on this leg. Mostly all the weight. A lot of it, at least. And you can see here the hip is still staying forward. You've already aligned the bow and you're ready to go, but you're staying with that weight on the front foot. And watch what happens as you lift. You'll see a lot of things change. The hips right now, excuse me, I'm sorry. The hips are over your feet. But as you go to lift the bow, several things will happen. Hips over the feet, meaning it's at the same angle, because the feet are open slightly, so are your hips. See how now you've got the hips a little bit more evenly spread over the 2 feet? And you can see a little bit of wobbly and instability there, but the vast majority of your weight is on that front foot still. And notice what happened. See how your hips are aligned over the ankles, but now the hip is more pointed towards the line of the target, meaning you have shifted from there. Watch the hips. You can use your arrows as a reference in your quiver, because your quiver is attached to your hips. So watch the direction the arrows move as you go to lift the bow. Right now. See how less of the arrows are now visible because you've twisted your hips to be pointing in line to the target. And with all that movement going on, the hips wobbling back and forth and things like that, it's showing me that you haven't really done a whole lot to engage with the ground. And it's super common. It will make a massive difference for your shooting, especially in the wind. And it'll just be a much more solid platform to shoot from. I'll put links in the email and in the description of the video below for the other people who are watching to a video on stability. It's 2 different ways to stabilize the hips a little bit more when at full draw. Most people don't do this. They don't stabilize enough, and I find it makes a huge difference in the wind in particular. So essentially what you would do is tuck your hips under, and then either envision pulling paper towels apart with your feet to lock the hips in, or you lock the knees by essentially flexing the quads and then try to externally rotate the legs. And what that does is just locks the entire hip girdle, and it adds in a whole bunch of abdominal tightness as well, which will stabilize everything. And it'll also be impossible for you to have that hip shifted forward as far as weight is concerned on that front foot, because everything must be locked in place in a good stable platform that way. Once you get to full draw, the position is pretty good. However, you do have to lift up quite a considerable amount to get to what I'm assuming is 70 meters. So if you can, do your best to try to get that bow up a little bit higher in the pre-shot routine. You can see how right about now, I'm going to guess the hand is just about underneath the target, which is perfect. The center of the target, which is perfect. But as you go to draw, see how the bow hand comes down a considerable amount as you're pulling? Try to keep that bow up. And instead of letting it come down so far on this side, try to, as you go to draw, try to reach further with this side at the same time. More of this and less of this, where both come down, if that makes sense. It'll really help kind of make things a bit more seamless for you. Things will flow a lot better, and you'll definitely fatigue a lot less over time. You'll spend less time at full draw, and the aim will probably happen much faster. Yeah, and your head movement is much better. Still moves a little bit. As you come down to draw, the head does still kind of lift up a little bit. If you can look from this position, I know the camera's not on a tripod and it still is moving a little bit, but the top of your hat and this part of the greenery behind you here, you can see it's right at that little dot area. Excuse me, Matt, I gotta move you. And as we go forward in time, see how the head lifted up like that as you go to draw? So try to either, if you need the head up for whatever reason, keep that head in that position or get it there earlier before you start the drawing cycle. Try to keep that head as still as possible. It makes a huge difference. Now, release, because this is a good video just to show on the release. Once you get to full draw and you start to expansion at that transfer time, try to imagine locking everything in its current place when you're at full draw. So meaning my hand to my forearm is locked. I can no longer change it this way. I can't twist it. I can't do anything. It's locked in position. Also, try to imagine this is locked in position this way. I won't open as I go to let go. Rotation, things like that, all kind of just lock into place. And then when I go to release and follow through, it stays here, where the hand and the forearm are all locked together, and it's not doing this. Many people, when they try to like lengthen their release and follow through, where they're trying to get this elbow movement being a bit stronger and a bit more fluid as far as the rotation is concerned, the number one way to do that is to feel like you're going further. Well, I can make it feel like I'm going further on my follow through by also doing this. Even though my arm is moving the same this way versus this way, the hand feels like it moves much further away from my face and string. And so what's better is to just maintain and lock this in place as if it's all one unit, from this shoulder all the way to the fingers. If it's one unit, when you go to release and follow through, there's none of this going on here, no hand floppiness. And you'll see as you go to let go, see how the hand ends up like this? So that's telling me that you're changing tension here. You don't have that concept yet of locking it in place. And so you're falsifying the release a little bit with some of the movement of the hand feeling like you're getting a little bit more distance, possibly. Although, just looking at you when you're at full draw, I can see an excessive amount of tension in the draw side as far as the hand is concerned. Let's see if I can find out where it is so I can maybe isolate it and give you a little bit better advice as to how to address this. Might be right there. See how the wrist is cocked like that as you're already started to draw? So you've already got an excessive amount of bicep and forearm tension as you're going like this. And then as you pick up the bow, you've transitioned now to a little bit more of a bent wrist this direction, like that, with that elbow up, with a lot of hand tension, and then it just keeps building as you're drawing. So really trying to imagine fingers just being a hook on the string, and then from the hook to the tip of the elbow just being, as Coach Lee says, a steel chain. Let it just relax. Hook on the tips and let this just be under tension. Don't add tension. Don't change positions. Don't try to do anything on purpose. Just pull actually from the shoulder, letting this whole connection point, this whole chain here, be just under tension, and let this all move as it should as you lift the bow, lead with the shoulder, and just keep the connection on the string. I think that'll really help reduce the overall tension in the system on this draw side, and it'll do a lot. It'll probably help with keeping that string alignment a little bit more consistent. It'll definitely help keep up the cleaning. It'll help clean up the release some. You'll have less of this going on where the fingers go and then that will stop as well. So trying to just connect here and lead with the shoulder, and then once you get to full draw, lock everything in place as if you were to weld each chain link together so they can no longer move, and then just let it stay together as you follow through, again, all leading with that shoulder. I think that'll make a huge difference if you can work on that. Again, now look at you at full draw. See that? All that weight's on that front foot because you don't have that hip stability. You don't have the hips all locked in yet. Let's see if we can watch the hips move upon release. Yeah, they do. See how the quiver shakes? So right now the hips are pointing towards the target. You got a lot of weight on that front foot. And as you release, see how the hips now recoil and want to go back over your ankles. And now the quiver's swinging. And then as the bow swings to try to get it to avoid you, the hips are now turning back towards the target. And there's just all that movement going on. Again, the stability. You got to keep it till the arrow hits, just like you keep your follow through till that arrow hits. The arrow hits, 20 to 30 meters-ish. Doesn't have to go all the way to 70. You don't have to maintain that position that long. All of those things are easily seeable from that one view. We'll quick check out some of these other views. It's pretty good. Overall movement, alignment's excellent. And that release, again, very short with the elbow. Just let it swing around and behind you. Keep that everything in one position. This will give you a good perspective of the hips. See how the hips are pointing this direction, just like your feet are pointing this direction. That one you kept. Maybe it's a form thing that you're working on and just didn't do it on that one. Nope, there it goes. It turns. So previously, you got the hips tucked. You're in a good starting position. You just need to lock it and keep it. You can see as the hips turn, the butt turns out this way as you go to lift. So you're just losing what you got. You're starting in the right position, at least from this view. You're getting there. There's a good progression. Those hips will fix a lot. And that locking of everything on this side at full draw will help a lot too. So hopefully this helps. Thank you for submitting a video coaching review. Those are the next bits of things that I would suggest you work on. I appreciate it very much. And please let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I hope this helps.